Dear viewers, this powerful story will teach you that how you treat people matters, not because of who they might become, but because of who you are. You'll learn that karma has perfect timing, that grace is stronger than revenge, and that you should never underestimate someone you've hurt. After watching, share your thoughts about forgiveness and consequences. Subscribe to African Tales by Zion for more stories that prove character always wins. Amara Adeyemi walked through the Palm shopping mall in Lagos, her heels clicking softly on the polished marble floor. At 32, she carried herself with quiet confidence, dressed elegantly in a tailored navy dress and simple jewelry. She was shopping for items for a charity event. Tablecloths, decorations, small touches that would make the fundraiser special. She didn't notice him at first. "Amara, is that actually you?" The voice made her freeze. She knew that voice. She'd once loved that voice. Then she'd learned to fear it. Now, 3 years later, she'd hoped never to hear it again. She turned slowly. Chike Okonkwo stood there with a woman on his arm, tall, designer everything, the kind of woman who screamed old money. His current wife, Jinika. "Chike." Amara's voice was level. "Hello." He looked her up and down, his expression a mixture of surprise and condescension. "Wow, you've changed. Shopping here? How can you afford this place?" The implication was clear. When they divorced 3 years ago, she'd been broken, working a modest job, barely surviving. He'd made sure she left the marriage with nothing. Jinika laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Chike, is this the ex-wife you told me about? The one who was always struggling?" Amara felt heat rise to her cheeks. People were starting to glance over, curious. "I'm doing fine," she said quietly. "Excuse me, I need to." Chike stepped into her path. "No, wait. I'm just surprised. Last I heard, you were working some small office job. How are you surviving in Lagos? This economy isn't kind to, well, to people at your level." "My level?" Amara's voice was still calm, but her hands trembled slightly. "You know what I mean." Chike's voice grew louder, playing to the growing audience. "Amara, let's be honest. I did you a favor divorcing you. You weren't cut out for the lifestyle I needed. I needed someone with class, connections, breeding." He gestured grandly to Jinika. "This is what a real wife looks like. Someone who can move in the right circles. Not whatever you were trying to be." Jinika smirked, clearly enjoying the show. Several shoppers had stopped, watching the drama unfold. Amara blinked back tears. "I'm happy for you, Chike. Truly. Now, please. You're probably here spending your entire month's salary on one item, aren't you?" Chike continued. "Cool now. Pretending to be something you're not. Some things never change. Amara, you were always trying to reach above your station." The tears came despite her best efforts. Amara turned and walked away quickly, leaving her shopping basket behind, desperate only to escape. "You should thank me, Amara." Chike called after her, his voice echoing through the mall. "I set you free from a life you could never handle." The whispers followed her to the parking lot. She got into her car, a modest Toyota Camry, and sat there shaking, crying, feeling every bit as small as Chike had made her feel. She pulled out her phone with trembling hands and texted her husband. "Had a bad encounter. Coming home." The response was immediate. David was calling. "What happened?" His voice was worried. "Are you okay?" "I'll tell you when I get home," she managed. "I'm fine. I need to see you." 20 minutes later, she pulled into their driveway in Lekki. The house was beautiful but understated. David had wanted something grander, but Amara preferred comfortable to ostentatious. David met her at the door, his face creased with concern. He was 35, handsome in an understated way, dressed casually in jeans and a polo shirt. Nothing about him screamed wealth, which was exactly how he preferred it. "Tell me," he said, leading her to the couch. She told him everything. The encounter, Chike's words, the public humiliation, the way people had stared. David's jaw tightened, his hands clenching into fists, but his voice remained calm. "That's your ex-husband? The one who divorced you 3 years ago?" She nodded, wiping tears. "What's his full name?" "Chike Okonkwo." "Why?" David's expression changed, recognition flickering across his face, followed by something cold and calculating. "Interesting," he said softly. "Very, very interesting." "What is it?" David pulled out his phone, scrolled through emails. "Is his company called Okonkwo Ventures?" "Yes." "How did you—" He turned the phone to show her an email, a meeting request that had been pending for months, recently approved. "Your ex-husband," David said, his voice carefully neutral, "has been begging for a meeting with me for 6 months. I finally agreed to see him. The meeting is in 2 weeks. Amara's eyes widened. "David, he has no idea what I look like. I've made sure of that." David smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "He doesn't know that the billionaire he desperately needs is married to the woman he just humiliated." "What are you going to do?" David took her hands gently. "I'm going to teach him a lesson he'll never forget." Chike Okonkwo sat in his office, staring at the email that had just changed his life. After 6 months of proposals, letters, and increasingly desperate attempts, he'd finally received the response he'd been praying for. "Mr. Okonkwo, David Adeyemi has agreed to meet with you 2 weeks from today. Details to follow." He leaned back in his chair, letting out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for months. David Adeyemi, the silent partner, the most elusive, most powerful investor in Nigeria. Nobody knew what he looked like. He worked exclusively through lawyers and representatives. No social media presence, no public appearances, no interviews. Just billions of naira in silent investments that turned struggling companies into empires overnight. And he'd agreed to meet with Chike. "Jinika," he called. "Jinika, come here." His wife appeared in the doorway, designer handbag on her arm. "What?" He said yes. David Adeyemi said yes. Her eyes lit up, the first genuine warmth he'd seen from her in months. "Really? Oh, Chike, I knew you'd make it to that level." What Jinika didn't know, what nobody knew, was how desperately Chike needed this meeting. His company was drowning. He'd taken massive loans to expand, to maintain the lifestyle Jinika demanded, to fund the appearance of success. The expansion had failed. The debts were crushing him. He was 3 months from bankruptcy, 6 months from losing everything. David Adeyemi wasn't just an opportunity. He was Chike's only chance at survival. Over the next 2 weeks, Chike prepared obsessively. He rehearsed his pitch. He bought a new suit he couldn't afford. He had his presentation reviewed by consultants he shouldn't have hired. He bragged to everyone. "I'm meeting with David Adeyemi personally. Do you know what this means? I'm about to become a billionaire." What he didn't say, "I'm about to avoid complete financial ruin." Meanwhile, in a comfortable house in Lekki, David was making his own preparations. "Are you sure about this?" Amara asked, watching him review documents. "About meeting him?" "Absolutely." David looked up at her. "I've had my team investigate his company. He's overextended, overleveraged, and desperate. He needs me to survive. And you're going to teach him a lesson about how you treat people, about respect, about consequences." Amara bit her lip. "I don't want you to do this just because of me." David stood, crossed to her, took her hands. "My love, this isn't just about you. Though what he did to you is reason enough. This is about the principle. He humiliated you publicly because he thought you were powerless. He needs to learn that everyone deserves respect, regardless of what he thinks their station is. What are you going to do? Watch, David said with a slight smile, and see justice work in real time. The 2 weeks passed. Chike was confident, almost cocky. He convinced himself that this meeting was his destiny, that David Adeyemi had sought him out because he recognized Chike's genius. He had no idea he was walking into a reckoning. The morning of the meeting, Chike put on his new suit, checked his reflection. "You've got this," he told himself. "You're meeting with a billionaire because you're about to become one too." He drove to the office building in Ikoyi, a gleaming high-rise that screamed wealth and power. Security was extensive. He was checked at 3 different points before being led to the top floor. The conference room was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lagos, art that probably cost more than his car, furniture that whispered elegance. Chike sat down, rehearsing his opening lines. The door opened. A man walked in, younger than Chike expected, maybe mid-30s. Well-dressed, but understated. Something in his eyes made Chike immediately nervous. "Mr. Adeyemi?" Chike stood, extending his hand. "It's such an honor." The man looked at his hand, but didn't shake it. He just stared, his expression cold, assessing. "Sit down, Mr. Okonkwo." Chike sat, confused by the icy reception. "Sir, I wanted to thank you for this opportunity. Tell me about your business." Chike launched into his pitch, but he was stumbling now, unnerved by David's unblinking stare. 2 minutes in, David interrupted. "How's your wife? Jinika, right?" Chike blinked. "Ah, yes. She's well. Do you know her family?" "No, but I know you were married before, to a woman named Amara." Chike's smile faltered. "That's ancient history." "Why?" "Ancient? 3 years is ancient. It's not relevant to this meeting. Isn't it?" David's voice could cut glass. "Tell me, Mr. Okonkwo, do you often publicly humiliate your ex-wives in shopping malls?" The blood drained from Chike's face. Oh no, Chike just realized he's in David Adeyemi's office, and David knows about the mall incident. He has no idea that David is Amara's husband yet. The karma is coming, and it's going to hit hard. Have you ever seen someone get instant karma for being cruel? Share your story in the comments. If you're ready to see Chike's world collapse when he finds out the truth, smash that like button and subscribe to African Tales by Zion for more stories where karma has perfect timing. Next chapter shows a moment he realizes who he's really dealing with. You absolutely cannot miss this. Chike's mouth went dry. I don't understand what you're referring to. 2 weeks ago, Palms Mall, you humiliated a woman named Amara, called her ordinary, said she was nothing, mocked her in front of a crowd. David's voice was deadly calm. Ring any bells? Chike was sweating now. How do you know about that? Why? David stood up slowly, walked to a window, hands clasped behind his back. Let me tell you a story, Mr. Okonkwo, about a woman who was married to a cruel, insecure man, a man who belittled her, controlled her, made her feel worthless. Chike's heart was pounding. When this man's business started doing well, he divorced her, told her she wasn't good enough for his new lifestyle, left her broken with nothing. David turned to face him. But this woman was stronger than he knew. She went back to school, earned her MBA with honors, built a career through intelligence and hard work. She's brilliant, kind, compassionate, and strong. Everything her ex-husband said she wasn't. 2 years ago, I met her at a business conference. She walked into a room and said the smartest thing I'd heard all year. I knew immediately she was extraordinary. David walked slowly toward Chike. I asked her to dinner. She said no. Said she didn't trust wealthy men after her divorce. I spent 6 months proving I was different. He stopped right in front of Chike's chair, looking down at him. 1 year ago, I married her. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Chike's brain was trying to process, failing, trying again. What were you saying? David pulled out his phone, showed him the screen. A wedding photo, David in a suit and Amara, radiant in a simple but elegant wedding dress, smiling genuinely for the first time in years. Amara Adeyemi, David said softly. My wife, your ex-wife. Chike felt like he couldn't breathe. That's impossible. Is it? Did you think she'd stay broken forever? Did you think humiliating her had no consequences? I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I didn't know she was. You're sorry you humiliated her? Or sorry you humiliated the wife of the billionaire you need? Silence. They both knew the answer. David sat down across from Chike. Let me tell you what Amara is now, Mr. Okonkwo. She's co-director of 3 of my companies. She manages a 50 million naira charitable foundation. She's one of the smartest business minds I've ever encountered. She's worth more than you'll ever be. Not in money, though she has plenty now, but in character, intelligence, and heart. Chike could barely speak. I didn't mean, I'm so sorry. Here's what's going to happen. David's voice was businesslike now. I reviewed your proposal. Your company is dying. You're drowning in debt. About 10 million naira by my team's estimate. You need me to survive. A flicker of hope crossed Chike's face. I'm going to pass. The hope died instantly. Please, Mr. Adeyemi. I made a terrible mistake. I didn't know. There it is again. I didn't know. You didn't know she was my wife. But you knew she was a human being. You knew she deserved respect. You just didn't think she deserved it from you. Please, my business, my reputation. I'll lose everything. You should have thought about that before you decided cruelty was entertaining. David stood. This meeting is over. Mr. Adeyemi, please. I'll apologize. I'll do anything. You want forgiveness? David walked to the door, opened it. Ask my wife. Not me. This is her decision, not mine. Security appeared to escort Chike out. Please. Chike was begging now, desperate. Give me a chance. David's expression didn't change. You had a chance. You had a kind, loving wife. You destroyed her. That was your chance. You don't get another one from me. Chike was let out, his legs barely working, his mind reeling. In the elevator, reality crashed over him. He'd just destroyed his only hope for survival. And he'd done it 2 weeks ago in a shopping mall, when he decided being cruel was more satisfying than being kind. The karma was poetic, perfect, and devastating. And he had no one to blame but himself. Chike sat in his car in the parking garage for an hour, unable to move. His phone rang repeatedly. Jinika, his secretary, his lawyer. He couldn't answer. Finally, he drove home. Jinika took one look at his face and knew. What happened? Did you get the investment? He said no. What? Why? What did you do? I didn't do anything in the meeting. I did something 2 weeks ago. At the mall. He looked at her. You remember Amara? My ex-wife. The ordinary one you divorced? What about her? She's married to David Adeyemi. Jinika stared at him, then started laughing. Then she realized he wasn't joking. You're serious? That woman is married to... Her face drained of color. Oh my God, you humiliated David Adeyemi's wife. I didn't know. You should have been kind regardless. Jinika's voice rose. You should have been decent. Are you insane? We're ruined. We can still... There is no we... Chike, I married you for the lifestyle you promised. You just destroyed that. I'm done. She walked out, and Chike was too numb to stop her. The next days were a nightmare. Word spread in business circles that David Adeyemi had passed on Okonkwo Ventures. In their world, that was a death sentence. Other investors pulled out. Banks started calling in loans. Chike had one option left: apologize to Amara and beg for mercy. He sent messages. No response. He sent emails. Ignored. He sent expensive gifts. Returned unopened. Finally, desperate, he went to David's office and begged security. Please, I need to speak with Mrs. Adeyemi. I need to apologize. Security called upstairs. After 10 minutes, they returned. Mrs. Adeyemi will see you. Once, Mr. Adeyemi will be present. The meeting was in the same conference room. This time, Amara and David sat together on one side of the table. Chike sat across from them, humble and broken. Amara looked different from 2 weeks ago. She wasn't crying now. She was composed, elegant, clearly at peace. Amara, Mrs. Adeyemi, Chike's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I'm so deeply, profoundly sorry for everything. The marriage, the divorce, the mall, all of it. Are you sorry because you were cruel? Amara's voice was calm. Or because you need something? Chike swallowed hard. Both, but mostly because I was cruel. I treated you terribly. You never deserved any of it. You're right. I didn't. I was insecure. I projected my fears onto you. I thought making you small made me bigger. I was wrong about everything. Amara nodded slowly. I forgave you a long time ago, Chike. Not for you. For me. I couldn't move forward carrying that weight. Hope flickered in his eyes. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'll ask my husband to invest in your business. You made choices. Choices have consequences. The hope died. Then David spoke. However, my wife has a kinder heart than I do. Both Amara and Chike looked at him in surprise. I'm not going to invest in your company. It's poorly run and overextended. David's voice was matter-of-fact. But I'm going to give you one opportunity. One, I'll pay off your debt. 10 million naira. Clear your slate completely. Chike's eyes widened. What? Why would you? Not for you. For the woman you once married. Who doesn't want to see anyone suffer? Even someone who hurt her deeply. In exchange, you'll sell me 60% of your company for 1 naira. I'll install new management. You'll keep your position, but you'll report to them. You'll learn how to actually run a business, or you'll lose even that. And you'll publicly apologize to my wife. Full apology, your social media, your business page, everywhere. Chike was stunned. I don't know what to say. Say yes or no. This offer expires in 60 seconds. Chike looked at Amara. She was watching him calmly, her expression unreadable. Yes, he whispered. Yes, I accept. And Mrs. Adeyemi, thank you. I don't deserve this kindness. No, Amara agreed. You don't. But I'm not doing this for who you are. I'm doing it for who I am. I don't want to be someone who holds grudges, even against people who hurt me. The papers were drawn up within days. Chike signed everything. David's team took over management. And on every social media platform he had, Chike posted the same message. 3 years ago, I divorced a woman because I thought she wasn't good enough for me. 2 weeks ago, I publicly humiliated her because I thought she was beneath me. I was wrong on both counts. Amara, you were always more than enough. I was the one who was lacking. I'm sorry for every cruel word, every moment of pain. You deserved so much better than me. You found it. I'm genuinely happy for you. The post went viral. Some people praised his honesty. Others saw through to the desperation. But everyone learned the lesson. Be careful who you humiliate. You never know who they really are. Wow. She forgave him but still held him accountable. David paid his 10 million naira debt, but took 60% of his company for 1 naira. That's not revenge. That's justice with grace. Chike had to publicly apologize on all his social media. Have you ever forgiven someone but still enforced consequences? How did it feel? Share in the comments. If you believe in grace without weakness, like this video and subscribe to African Tales by Zion for more stories where character wins. One more chapter. You need to see how this ends and what Chike finally learns. 6 months later, Chike stood in the back of a grand ballroom, watching Amara command the stage. She was speaking at the charity gala she'd organized, a fundraiser for women's education and business startups. The room was filled with Lagos's elite, business moguls, society women, and media. Amara spoke confidently about breaking barriers, about helping women rebuild after divorce, about second chances and new beginnings. Chike barely recognized her as a broken woman. He divorced 3 years ago. This woman was powerful, articulate, inspiring. She always had been. He'd just been too insecure to see it. The past 6 months had changed him too. David's management team had restructured his company completely. Chike had been humbled, forced to learn, required to actually work rather than coast on bravado. The company was profitable now, not through Chike's genius, but through competent management and hard work. He was learning, slowly, what real business looked like. Jenica had left him the day after the meeting. No goodbye, just gone. He'd heard she was dating someone else, someone actually wealthy. He felt nothing about it. That relationship had been as shallow as he'd been. He was alone now, but different. Changed by consequences he couldn't escape. After Amara's speech, David joined her on stage. He kissed her hand, and the crowd awed at their obvious connection. Someone nearby asked David, "Your wife is remarkable. How did you two meet?" David smiled warmly. She walked into a business conference and said the smartest thing I'd heard all year. I knew immediately she was special. I asked her to dinner. She said no 3 times. Said she didn't trust wealthy men after her divorce. I spent 6 months proving I was different. Best 6 months of my life. Marrying her was the smartest business decision I ever made. She's made me a better man and a better businessman. Chike turned away, unable to listen to more. He understood now, too late, what he'd lost. Not the wealth or the connections. He'd never had those with her anyway. He'd lost a woman with the strength to rebuild herself from nothing, with the grace to forgive someone who destroyed her, with the character to show mercy even when she held all the power. He'd lost someone extraordinary, and he'd lost her because he couldn't see value in someone he considered beneath him. Later, Amara found him in the hallway. "Chike, I didn't know you were coming. I'm part of the company now. Your husband invited all staff." He paused. "Your speech was powerful. You're amazing up there. Thank you. I wanted to say something." He took a breath. "I learned a lesson. Finally, after all this." "What's that?" "That how you treat people matters. Not because of who they might become, or who they're connected to, or what they can do for you, but because of who you are. Because character is measured by how you treat people when you think they can't help you." Amara nodded. "I'm glad you learned that. You could have destroyed me. You held all the power, but you chose grace instead. That's real strength." "It's who I choose to be," Amara said simply. "I won't let what you did to me turn me into someone cruel. I'm better than that. You always were. I just couldn't see it." As Chike left the gala that night, he passed a mirror in the hallway. He looked at his reflection. Older, humbler, wiser. 3 years ago, he looked at Amara and seen someone ordinary, someone beneath him, Someone not worth basic respect. He'd been blind. She'd always been extraordinary. He'd just been too small to recognize it. The story spread through Lego's business circles, a cautionary tale that grew with each telling. The man who humiliated his ex-wife, not knowing she'd married the billionaire he desperately needed. Some people found it funny. Some found it sad. Everyone learned something from it. Amara found peace in her new life. She and David built an empire together, not just in business, but in purpose, in partnership, in genuine love. She never regretted showing Chike mercy, but she never forgot the lesson either. You teach people how to treat you, and sometimes teaching means enforcing consequences with grace. Chike rebuilt his life slowly, guided by humility he should have learned years earlier. He never married again. He focused on work, on learning, on trying to become someone better than who he'd been. And every time he was tempted to judge someone, to belittle them, to treat them as lesser, he remembered standing in David Adeyemi's conference room, learning the most expensive lesson of his life. Never underestimate people. Never humiliate them. Never treat anyone as disposable, because you never know who they are. You never know who they'll become. And you never know when the person you're mocking will turn out to be married to the only person who can save you. But more than that, you should be kind simply because that's who you should be. Not because of what people can do for you, but because of who you choose to be. That's the lesson Amara lived. That's the lesson David enforced. And that's the lesson Chike finally learned. Sometimes karma is instant. Sometimes it's poetic. And sometimes it comes with second chance you don't deserve but receive anyway, because someone else chose grace. Asterisk from public humiliation to lesson learned. Chike went from mocking his ordinary ex-wife to realizing she was extraordinary all along, and he was a small one. He learned the hard way. Treat people with respect not because of who they might be, but because of who you are. What's your biggest takeaway from this story? Be careful who you humiliate. Grace is stronger than revenge. Or character reveals itself in how you treat people who can't help you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story taught you something about karma, grace, and character, smash that like button. Share with someone who needs to learn this lesson. And subscribe to African Tales by Zion with notifications on for more stories, where karma has perfect timing and character always wins. Remember, how you treat people says everything about who you are. Be kind, be respectful, be gracious, because karma is watching and she has receipts. Thank you for watching and treat people well. Asterisk. The end. Copyright African Tales by Zion. All rights reserved. This story is dedicated to everyone who's been underestimated, humiliated, or told they weren't good enough. To everyone who rebuilt themselves after someone tried to break them. And to everyone who chose grace over revenge when they finally held the power. Your character is your crown. Wear it well.